Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabika Jura, but first are the headlines. UPDF Congolese army attack more ADF camps in DRC. Sol Foundation celebrates health workers at Butabika Hospital. In South Africa, Health Minister giving booster jab urges uptake. In our sports today, Sesazi hits a brace as Bulemezi outsmart Kochi in Butikiro Group. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, the ADF and the Congolese army have launched yet another air and artillery strikes against 3 more ADF camps in the thick DRC forests, according to the Ugandan army. Now, UPDF spokesperson Brigadier Flavia Biekwaso said in a tweet that the joint forces advanced to contact Akambi ya Yuwa, and 3 additional enemy positions were targeted by air and artillery strikes. Now, she added that the ground forces are also engaging the enemy in the same area. Our reporter has more.
When the Uganda People's Defense Force and the DRC Army launched air and artillery offensives against the Allied Democratic Force camps last month, it was reported that the rebel fighters dispersed, but according to security sources, the latest strikes came after intelligence information indicated that the rebels had started to regroup. On Sunday evening, there were yet another series of artillery and air strikes against the groups that had started to regroup at Kambi ya Yuwa in North Kivu. However, it is not yet clear how many of the enemy fighters were killed by the strikes. The Uganda People's Defense Forces commander of the land forces, Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, recently warned that the only way for Allied Democratic Force fighters is to surrender, or else they will be obliterated by the joint forces of Uganda and Democratic Republic of Congo. On November 30th, the Uganda People's Defense Forces and the Congolese Army launched air and artillery attacks against 4 ADF camps in Kambi ya Yuwa, Tondoli, Belu 1 and Belu 2 in the eastern part of Democratic Republic of Congo in an operation codenamed Shujaa, a Swahili word for brave. The joint forces recently announced that 34 ADF fighters had been captured following the attacks. The Allied Democratic Forces was formed out of remnants of the National Army for Liberation of Uganda, and Jamilu Mukulu was the group's founding leader until a few years when he was captured by the Tanzanian forces and repatriated back to Uganda, where he is currently facing charges related to terrorism. They operate in North Kivu, which borders other provinces including Ituri to the north and South Kivu to the south, and has been a battleground for a number of rival armed ethnic groups since 1998. The province consists of 3 cities including Goma, Butembo and Beni, as well as 6 territories: Beni, Lubero, Masisi, Rutshuru.
Moving on, the Chief Executive Officer of Sol Foundation, a non-profit organization, has called on the general public to look out for mental health patients in the community and help them before the situation goes out of hand. She said this in a ceremony to celebrate health workers at Butabika Hospital.
Speaking at the function organized by Sol Foundation, a non-profit organization, to appreciate the work done by doctors and nurses at Butabika Hospital, Geraldine Opoka, the CEO Sol Foundation, said it is important to identify mental health patients early enough to enable doctors manage their conditions.
If there's anybody in your environment who is struggling, who seems to be struggling with a mental health issue, do not sit back. If there's an individual, if as an individual you do not feel like you are okay, please do not sit back. Go and see a doctor. There are counselors, there are psychologists, there are psychiatrists who have taken the time to study the mind and how it works. They know what to do with your situation before it gets out of hand. If you come to the hospital when it's too late, it only means you stay here a little longer.
Butabika Hospital happens to be the only facility that does not take caretakers from home, but rather the care for patients is all done by staff and health workers, which prompted Sol Foundation to appreciate them and celebrate their efforts.
So it's so easy for us to not see them in the background, but Sol Foundation this year decided that we want to lift them up, we want to appreciate them and thank them for the great job that they do taking care of our patients. So today we are celebrating them with gift hampers. We have different gifts that we're going to play raffle games with them. it's really for us to say thank you to the staff of Butabika Hospital for the great work you do in taking care of our people.
The Acting Assistant Commissioner, Nursing, Butabika Hospital, Sister Florence Nanyonga,
would also call upon other members of public who also have the heart, the spirit of donating to our needy patients, that they can follow the footsteps of Solo Foundation so that we make Butabika a center of excellence.
Thanked Soul Foundation for always supporting Butabika Hospital and called upon well-wishers to borrow a leaf.
Away from that, ministers commend Posta Uganda's newest innovation, Safe Posta Express, a carrier service meant to enable Ugandans access delivery and other postal services from the comfort of their homes or offices. Now, this comes after Posta Uganda partners with Safe Border Company to fully commence the carrier service.
In her speech during the launch at Posta Uganda headquarters, Honorable Evelyn Anite, the State Minister for Privatization and Investment, said this partnership means revamping Posta Uganda and reviving its long-time lost glory of excellent service provision, since its new partner Safe Border is a well-organized local entity with commitment to job creation and supporting national development programs, which only need government financial intervention and continued public utilization. Honorable
and Safe Border. It is very excellent, first of all. It is in line with our support to the local investors. So Safe Border, which is a local company, started by Ugandans, just needed support from government. They do have the infrastructure, they've gotten their connections, but what they need is more money and more support from government. And so this support government is going to avail to Posta Uganda through to Safe Border through Posta Uganda. And again, for us, this relationship just means revamping Posta Uganda. Now they're going to Posta Express. As you know, back in the days before privatization, Posta was the #1 service provider courier. And this, after privatization, nosedived. With this relationship, it's just going to pick up. We're going to create more jobs. We are also going to make sure that we invest more money in Posta because we want this innovation to succeed.
Kabyanga Godfrey Baluku, the State Minister for Information Communication Technology, said the ministry supports ICT innovations like this since they have got the ability to create jobs which improve household income and the general well-being of Ugandans. He says that innovations like this needs the ministry's aspirations since it's aimed at improving service delivery while utilizing ICT. Safe Posta.
At the ministry, we support ICT innovations and improve. We support ICT innovations that have the capacity to create jobs. At the ministry, we want to ensure jobs are created in order to improve household incomes and improve the general well-being of Ugandans. An innovation like this one, therefore, meets all our aspirations because it is aimed at improving service delivery while utilizing ICT. As soon as we were shown in, we visited all agencies and we visited Posta Uganda among them. We were so impressed with what you were doing because outside there, people think Posta is dead. But when we reach here, we found Posta is alive.
The Express innovation is therefore targeted to provide Ugandans with better ways of operating business in a more efficient and faster manner, transitioning the postal business to technological environment.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa the Right to Know. In our international news today, French officers handed over the keys to a military base in the Malian city of Timbuktu on Tuesday after a nearly 9-year development. The ceremony took place near the city's airport with Malian army officers, according to officials from the local government and the United Nations attending.
The French flag was lowered and the Malian flag raised in its place on the base, where a force of about 150 soldiers have remained after Paris began withdrawing troops, having liberated the city from Islamists in 2013. General Etienne Dupeyroux, head of France's Operation Barkhane anti-jihadist campaign in Mali, shook hands with the new camp commander and offered him a large wooden key as a French military plane made a low flyover. The highly symbolic departure comes after French forces already left bases in the northern towns Kida and Tessalit this year, even though the jihadist-driven violence in the Sahel state shows no signs of easing. It was in Timbuktu on February 2, 2013, that former French President François Hollande declared the start of France's military intervention in the conflict-torn country. Just a few days earlier, French legionnaires and Malian troops had liberated the northern desert city after an 8-month Islamist occupation. French President Emmanuel Macron announced a major drawdown of French troops in June, however, after a military takeover in Mali in August 2020 that ousted the elected President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. France's deployment in the Sahel is due to fall to about 3,000 troops by next year.
Moving on, the party of Gambian opposition leader Osanu Dabu announced on Tuesday that it appealed to the Supreme Court to annul the proclaimed re-election of the incumbent Adama Barrow in the presidential election, accusing him of multiple irregularities, including vote buying. We have more.
Adama Barrow was declared winner by the Electoral Commission of the presidential election of December 4th with about 53% of the vote against about 27% for the main of his 5 competitors, Ousseynou Diboy. Mr. Diboy had, even before the announcement of the results, expressed with 2 other candidates his intention to contest the results without specifying the reasons. His party, the United Democratic Party, appealed to the Supreme Court on Tuesday. In its appeal, it accuses Mr. Barrow or his supporters of having distributed money or gifts in various villages. It claims that Mr. Barrow's party, the National People's Party, has infiltrated the Electoral Commission. It also alleged that non-Gambians participated in the election as well as various irregularities in the voting and counting process. In a statement, the UDP called on its supporters to remain calm and assured them of its commitment to using exclusively peaceful means to settle electoral disputes. The international community has signaled that it will be watching to see whether the losers accept or contest the results made official by the Commission as an indicator of the progress made by this young democracy in transition.
Away from that, Nigeria's traditional ruler in the southern Benin city hosted a day of celebrations on Monday in anticipation of the long-awaited return of 2 bronze treasures looted during colonial times. Now, dancers and musicians performed in King's Palace, which was decorated with banners of the art crafts, a bronze cockerel and a king's bust. We have more on this report.
In a formal ceremony attended by royal guests and traditional chiefs, the king signed the official document transferring full possession of the works from the United Kingdom's Aberdeen and Cambridge universities, even though the pieces themselves were not to be seen. The Oba, or King of Benin, whose ancestors reigned over the region when it was ransacked by British soldiers in 1897, said that the day of the return of the looted treasures marked a watershed in their efforts to retrieve the bronzes, ivories and other works of arts which were removed from their palace. Thousands of Nigeria's so-called Benin bronzes, 16th to 18th century metal plaques and sculptures were looted from the palace of the ancient Benin Kingdom and ended up in museums across the United States and Europe. Apart from Britain, France, Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany have also received requests from African countries to return lost treasures. Experts estimate that 85 to 90% of African cultural artifacts were taken from the continent. The last neighboring West African country, Benin, welcomed back nearly 30 royal treasures looted by colonial France more than 130 years ago.
Away from that, Tunisia's President Kais Saied said on Monday that Parliament, suspended almost 5 months ago, would remain so until elections, he said, for December 2022, and called a July referendum on constitutional reforms. We have more. In a speech on national television, Saied announced a popular consultation with the Tunisian people and said that other draft constitutional and other reforms will be put forward that will mark a year since he sacked the government, suspended parliament, and seized a string of powers to the only democracy to have emerged from the Arab Spring upsprings a decade ago. His move came as the North African country wallowed in political and economic crises compounded by the coronavirus pandemic. He later moved to rule by decree. Saied, who has been a sharp critic of the North African country's 2014 constitution, said on Monday that a nationwide public consultation would take place from January 1st until March 20th to gather suggestions for constitutional and other reforms. A committee will then examine until June, ahead of the referendum on the anniversary the Tunisian Republic was declared after independence from France. He said that Parliament will stay suspended until elections take place under new laws on December 17th next year. Earlier on Monday, Saied had told Cabinet that constitutions are not external. The 2014 constitution, which put in place a hybrid presidential parliamentary system, was seen as compromise between powerful Islamist-inspired party Ennahda and its secular rivals. Well, thank you so much, reporter. We'll take a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. Still watching TV Africa, The Right to Know. In a business news today, one of the most influential genres of African music and dance, Congolese rumba, is now UNESCO's intangible heritage list. Now, this aimed at helping to preserve the heritage that is often threatened. Some 60 applications were submitted by countries, awaited a decision which was finally made on Tuesday, December 14th.
Tim Curtis, Secretary of the UNESCO Convention on the subject, adopted in 2003 in a press kit, said that UNESCO defines intangible cultural heritage or living heritage as a legacy from our ancestors that we pass on to our descendants, which includes oral traditions, social practices, rituals, and festive events. He added that to be defined as intangible cultural heritage, a cultural practice must be dynamic and must have meaning in people's lives. Attaining this status is the end of campaigning by two countries, the Democratic Republic of Congo and neighboring Congo-Brazzaville. They both occupy what was once the ancient kingdom of Congo, where the sinuous dance originated according to the two nations' joint application. Congolese rumba joins other living traditions such as Jamaican reggae music and Singaporean hookah food on UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Despite its African origins, another school of thought also have it that rumba has become more closely associated with the Latin dance. Indeed, Cuban rumba was granted UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage status back in 2016. The style of rumba that emerged in Cuba in the 19th century had its roots in the drumming of slaves from Central Africa, which was then combined with melodies from Cuba's Spanish colonizers. Among the earliest heroes of Congolese rumba were Wendo Kolosoi, Paul Nkamba Franco, Tipok Jazz, Tabule Rocherio, and Dr. Nico.
from business, in our health news today, South Africa's health minister on Tuesday received his coronavirus booster vaccine and urged South Africans to come forward for their jabs. Now, Fala received his Johnson & Johnson booster shot at the Zuid-Afrikaanse Hospital along with the first group of health workers who took part in a vaccination trial between February and May. We have more on the report. After a period of low transmission of about 200 new cases per day in early November, South Africa COVID-19 cases began rising dramatically. On November 25th, scientists in the southern African nation confirmed the Omicron variant, which has more than 50 mutations. Meanwhile, a Russian emergency ministry plane arrived in the country with humanitarian aid on Tuesday amid the spread of the new Omicron virus strain. Besides the delivery of humanitarian aid, Russian sanitary medics will be conducting research on the Omicron strain in South Africa. The travel of Russian specialists comes after Russian President Vladimir Putin's order, which followed a request from the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, according to the Russian Emergency Ministry. Now let's turn your attention to our sports news today. Sulaiman Oscar Sesazi netted a brace as two-time Masaza Cup champions Bulemezi outsmarted Kochi during a Butekero Group contest in the ongoing Masaza Cup 2021 tournament at Fufa Technical Center in Njeru on Tuesday, December 14th, 2021.
Sesazi broke the resilience of Kochi after a barren half-hour mark with a stunning distant strike over 50 yards from the goal on 32 minutes. Gabriel Eragu got the other goal in the one-sided contest under very hot weather conditions. Eragu tapped home from close range to double the scores in the 39th minute. Sesazi returned on the score sheet on the stroke of full time to complete his brace to give the 2012 and 2019 championships the command of Butikiro Group. In the second game on the same day, Maokota escaped from the scares of an imminent defeat when they scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes to win 3-2 over Islanders Sese. Maokota took the lead after just 3 minutes through Dan Kaziwe and Rumukasa leveled the affairs on the quarter-hour mark before defender Arnold Odong doubled the scores for Sese with an unfortunate goal. With the minutes trickling down, Maokota staged a gallant display in the final 4 minutes. Tone Chiberu found the equalizer in the 86th minute before winger Isaac Oforth founded the winner 60 seconds later. Maokota will face Bulemezi in the top of the table contest and Kochi squares up against Islanders Sese.
Well, thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.